Yep.
Let me host you. One sec. For some reason, it doesn't really work from my desktop. I have to do it from my phone.
What?
Strange, huh?
I don't know. Anyways.
Like every time I want to host you.
Oh, you can do it. You definitely can do it. You can. You
Yeah,
it
I know, but
straight.
the button function is different. I don't know where it is.
Oh, you need to go into quick actions and you can add it there. So in Stream Manager, there's quick actions, and then you can add it onto that, so you can do it.
Yeah, right. I'll do it next time.
Yeah. Alrighty. Welcome,
Um,
welcome, welcome, welcome on in. I'm just gonna go share this to our discords. Oh, hello. Oh, that was quick. Okay. Thank you for the host.
nope, no worries.
Cough. It's just like you're on my damn channel. You better host. Okay, so I've apparently got 3 viewers. I don't know, maybe some people just joined in or some, I don't know, mysterious people. We'll just leave it at that for now,
Serious.
you know. And so while I do the background stuff again, do you wanna give a little bit of a
Sure.
intro? Yeah.
Alright,
Sorry.
well, hey guys, thanks for joining us today and welcome to episode 19. Um, yep, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
working hard or hardly working.
yes.
Today we decided that we're gonna chat about, typical Asian school, education, working life.
Mhm. So
The best
just
that I could.
yeah.
Mm,
Just so like different experiences from different cultures, like putting all of it, like we may draw from your boyfriend, for example, like what's it like for him to work, and we might draw from some of our friends, maybe even our mutual friend in Korea, what it's like for her to work there as well. Any stories we have, so we want to kind of
yeah,
do a kind of inclusive mix of what study and work life is for everyone from different places is pretty much
yeah,
the idea.
yeah.
So yeah. So well, I'm just gonna
So
yep.
I don't know. I guess like both of us, like even though we have a strong Asian upbringing and whatnot, we've
Mhm.
been living pretty much all our lives in Australia. So I guess we kind of have like, you know, the perspective of two sides. I
Mhm.
guess. Definitely. Like I mean,
I mean, I
I
could.
personally moved here when I was fairly young, so I wouldn't have had like that much working experience in Japan, like
But I mean,
as an adult.
yeah. But at the same time, we can kind of draw from experiences from our extended family or even direct family. Because as I was about to bring up the point that okay, realistically for myself, I can't really say for you because I think you might have more than me, but I have three
Mm,
different perspectives on work life. The one would be the Australian work life and how that's supposed to work, and then conversely, you could have the Vietnamese work life. How they work, because you've gone back to Japan, you've probably gone and seen what the work life is. You see all the people buzzing around and everything like that, so you have a general idea what it
yeah,
feels like. But then we
yeah,
also have like the kind of second generation work life, where we're kind of like a mix in between. So that again is different, and that's something that we kind of touched upon, like how we are creating our own kind of subculture out of the different mix of cultures and generation and environments that we're kind of stuck in. So hopefully it should serve some good insights and information. And if you're in the chat, feel free to either comment on YouTube or tell us live like some of your experiences with work and study. So
yeah.
I guess the first thing we should do is probably reflect on our time in high school. I think that's probably a good place to start because that's a lot of
Sure.
kind of study and this kind of stick with the study environment because let's say for me, I mean, I have a few different versions of mine, but for yourself, maybe you can just give me a brief kind of breakdown of what it was like for studying for you because I've heard bits and pieces, but like think of it as like a study environment, like kind of put it all into one place, more or less. So like, what was it like for you when you were studying, say, in Japan, if you remember it, before you moved to Canada? What was it like there, the environment there, and then also in Australia and etc.
I'd say, as I don't have the memory like you, Kelvin,
Yeah,
but uh,
that's
I'd say one thing I have to say is that it's very structured in Japan. Like as in everything's organized.
Mm-hmm.
All the students, or if not, like almost everybody, are well behaved, at least
It's
during class, and I guess like you can see that in other aspects in the
yep.
society in Japan where people are very respectful, and one of the culture, or I wouldn't say tradition, but one of the culture like that's
Stereotypes.
really
Yeah.
well instilled in our
Yeah.
upbringing in Japan would be like you're really really mindful of other people's spaces,
Right. Right. Right.
um, privacy, and you can see that reflected in like general conversations as well because
We've talked about
people
this. Yeah.
don't really crow too much
Yep.
like
Yep.
about personal questions or something a little bit more in depth where I'm probably the opposite. I'd rather cut the bullshit and get
And
into
that's
something
more
more
of a
deep,
multicultural kind of slash Western influence. So
mm,
we're just more.
something more meaningful,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
anyway, like
yeah.
in the environment in a classroom, I would say it's very much I don't know.
I mean, I can only talk from a
One
week.
way,
Uh,
one way. I mean, probably I might be wrong in some situations, but I feel like the teacher is always,
I think
the
there's
the
certain.
person just like obviously teaching
Yeah.
and talking, and the students are listening, and it's just like a one-way direction. Whereas I feel like in Australia or
Or
maybe probably
particularly in
any
our
other
high school.
countries, yeah, it's more interactive.
And it's more. I think there's more independence as well because I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
for example, what our teachers would do is say, hey, do this page of work, do it by yourself, and then get back to me. That's it, right? There's a bit of a mix between two, but like the only thing I can really talk upon from just like Japanese culture is like the stereotypes which are propagated by weeb culture and anime and shit. But like that kind of brings up a kind of a funny little memory I remember from like it's a terrible movie, but what's it? Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. I know it's a
First
terrible
one.
it's a terrible movie, but like I just remember like the American guy going into like a a Japanese school, like full Japanese school, which would probably never happen in real
Yeah.
life, and he's like the teacher's like telling him to put his shoes outside, and he's like the
Oh
fuck, and he's
yeah.
like the fuck, what do you mean put my shoes outside? I was like he's like she's trying to tell him, and like which would never happen really, because you think about it, that's like he'd at least go to like an international school, or at least
Mm,
a lot of Japanese people would speak a basic amount of English,
mm.
like a very basic, like
No.
no, it depends. Like the younger people would.
You'll be
Oh,
surprised.
really? Yeah. Well, it depends what kind of
Yeah.
interest they're in. Yeah.
My take on with that in particular is that like still like learn English like as a class or like a course or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. Like it doesn't have to be like outside school in general. It's very popular thing. It still is, I believe. But I feel like it's more like a trend, if you know what I mean.
So,
And people like to say, "Oh, I'm taking English classes,"
oh, so it's
but
one of
then
those.
that's it.
It's
So
like
it's
the golf country club kind of thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like oh, look, I have this membership kind of thing. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, I think
So
and I think maybe it's the opposite. It's like maybe it's the reverse weeb culture, because you know how even in Vietnamese we have like kind of like loan words from English that we think are really hip and cool. So you know how like how you use like they'll just throw in English things, because you were talking about how like English is like slowly slipping into like the Japanese language, because like they start
it
yeah.
has totally.
So I think that what I mean is
So
like that.
there's a lot of people who don't speak English.
But I mean, what I mean is there's a basic kind of like conception of English, so they kind of know the basic things. Because it's like, like everyone knows what hello is, kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and but like not everyone
That's
would know.
as far as you get.
Yeah, but not everyone knows like Ohio gozaimasu. Not everyone would know that. Like a lot of weebs would know it, but it's not
Mm.
commonplace. And like Xin Jiao, like who the fuck knows Vietnamese? People look at that as like, is that kind of some kind of fucked up version of Chinese? Like no, I literally got told that this morning. I'm like the fuck. It's like it's not pinyin. I don't know what it is. It's definitely not Chinese. I'm like the fuck. It's Vietnamese. What the fuck? But that's the kind of point because I think because of the increase of Japanese awareness in weeb culture, then even, especially Korean culture, that's really big. Everyone knows 안녕하세요 and all that kind of shit. It's just like the more that the culture kind of drives, kind of the I think the more popular media like kind of like soap operas or whatever, and music kind of drives the culture. The more it becomes more prevalent within like your home culture and more accepted slash like a trend, as you said. So it's kind of funny, like how we have like people saying baka and all that kind of shit in English, and it's cringy as fuck. But at least But then over in even in even in K dramas, they have like little buzzwords in like I don't watch them, but they have little buzzwords in like English that they use just to, even though it's like used in the wrong context. It's kind of like how it's like it filters through. It's like words from culture filter through for every single culture. Like I haven't seen like even Vietnamese, like people just like swearing and saying like "du ma" all the time. That's the first thing that happens to me when I say, oh yeah, like, oh you're Vietnamese, "du ma," which is mother, you know. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, just tangent again, but yeah. So the whole point of it was just kind of like with that whole interaction there. It's like I know it's very structured and very formal, and I think there's a certain expectation in terms of Japanese slash Asian kind of education that everything is strict and formal and kind of like very one way, as you said, because it's not a very free form thing. Because like in the West, we recognize that people learn different ways. So like
It's very much in a box,
yes,
and it's not a very big box.
no, I mean I mean
Short story.
yeah. But it was kind of funny because like I had a really eccentric teacher for my legal studies teacher, and this is like law studies when I was in high school, and like he literally gave me like, oh here's everything we're learning this term on the whiteboard, first lesson, like all he just writes everything up. Here's all the stuff you need. The rest of the like 6-7 weeks, just leave me alone. I'd be lying down, looking at my phone. Like this is before like smartphones were a big thing. I was like browsing on my phone or listening to my MP3 player, eating chips or something like that. Would leave me alone. He just like straight up leave me alone. He's just like, because he's just like, I know you'll be capable when the exam comes around, so I'm just gonna have to trust your judgment on that. That would never happen, never happen in Asian school. Because one, that would be disrespectful, and two, that would be like, it would be a sign that you're not actually studying or you're not paying attention. But most of all, disrespectful. They just like they literally cane your ass or some shit. I don't know. Just like, how dare you? I don't know. Do they have corporate? But do they still have the cane over in Japan? I don't know. Maybe not.
Dang.
Like the
Wacky.
you know
No.
for younger children. No,
Nah, no, not in Japan. No way.
not no. I think it might have been phased out in the last 20 years in Vietnam. I don't. Yeah, I think everyone's a bit more precious about that kind of thing, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sidetracking.
Go ahead.
I occasionally get like tweets from CNN.
Oh God.
And it said that the other day I got like a tweet from CNN saying that research shows that physical punishment on children does not benefit their future behavior and other things in social aspects.
Which is pretty.
Like according to the study of in like
Yeah.
this countries, and I'm like,
No shit.
it's common sense. Like, do you think
Not
even
really.
apply a physical punishment
Well-
on adults? Do you think that's gonna help their behavior?
Well,
no.
not-
Then on children, of course not.
Well, yeah. I mean, there is a logic behind it, and this kind of strays into more criminology than anything else, because it's the idea of it's what's it? It's rehabilitation. well, there's like three R's. I can't remember it because it's been so long, but like it's pretty much like repercussions or something like that, right? Like you take revenge on, or you punish those who have done wrong. And I mean, even though we say that the whole idea of punishing, like hitting or whatever, is really wrong, it's still a very big part of how society kind of governs itself if you think about it, right?
Oh yeah, but yeah, I just don't believe in physical punishment.
Yeah, I know, but it's just, and a lot of people would say that maybe doing that, devil's advocate here, maybe that physical punishment will bring up a response that will prevent them from doing it next time because they'll remember the pain and the fear and whatever, which is totally not a good thing to do, but that is the logic that some people use. They teach through fear and pain instead of logic, which is a bit, yeah, but yeah.
Anyway, that was a super sidetrack.
Yeah, well, that's all right. It's tangentially related, so it's past. So
Yeah,
so what about Canada?
Canada was great. Everyone was so friendly,
It's Canada though,
and
so
there was a general sense of confusion because obviously
the language
I did
barrier.
not speak English back then. I was basically dumped there in the deep end, so everyone's so nice and they wanted to talk to me and all the teachers and students and they're talking to me in my face and I'm like, oh, yeah.
It's a shame. Like this is probably another kind of sidetrack. That imagine if that happened to you today. Like you're the same kind of situation. I don't think you'd struggle as hard. There's a thing. There's a pocket dictionary in your pocket, like a translator. So you could get away with like oh, what do you mean? Because I've done it too. Like I've done it with some of my friends who don't speak English very well. I'm just like fuck it, I'll take Google Translate out and I'll just translate it for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's becoming less of a problem now these days. One, because of course the kind of increased like interspersion of like different cultures. So they may know a couple of Japanese terms just from watching Naruto or some shit, right? And you might know a couple of English terms just because it's the kind of westernization of Asia is quite prevalent. So I think that's for me. In my opinion, I think it's would be much easier for you to pick up, say, English or Japanese or something like that's very culturally hot. Obviously, no one's going to go to Vietnam and learn Vietnamese, but it's like, you know, like the hottest languages at the moment is definitely Japanese, Korean, and probably Mandarin.
Oh, yeah, I love to do Mandarin.
The Mandarin is just more of a functional thing, more than a cultural popularity. But like
Yeah.
culturally popular are definitely Korean and Japanese in terms of the Asian languages. And, I can't say much about the European languages. Maybe French is still a thing. People still like the romantic French, speaking the French language. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was kind of funny. It'd be funny if you actually learnt like Quebec, Quebec French. That'd be so funny.
They're weird. Even I can notice the accent.
Yeah, you got
It sounds so weird.
yeah, and obviously, was there much difference for you once you came to Australia, like between Canada and Australia in terms of school, or was it just the fact that you could understand the difference more, or understand more of the culture, so that's why the difference was so kind of glaring?
See, for me, when I moved to Australia, there was obviously no language barrier. Obviously, maybe
Yeah,
my
so that's
English might have been a bit rusty, but I could talk.
yeah,
And I progressed with it. So this is where I am right now, in terms of the level of my English. But culturally, oh, I think it was hard, um, because it's almost like I wasn't a really, if I maybe over exaggerated it a little bit, I would have been in a really funny spot because um, I briefly went to primary school in Japan
yep,
before I moved to Canada. And I was in Canada for 2.5 years and I learned English there. So I was then, by the end of the 2.5 that my parents decided to go back to Japan,
mm,
I was getting very comfortable with my
you,
peers,
yeah,
my teachers, the class, the culture, the life there, right?
Yep.
And then I moved back. So and then I moved like couple times, changing to three different schools while I was there
Yep.
before I moved to Australia. So I had a bit of experience in a normal primary school in Sapporo,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Hokkaido.
Yep.
There was one public school I briefly went in Yokohama, which was a
Yeah.
terrible
We've
experience.
touched on this before. Yeah.
And then the third school was international school, and that was probably the best thing,
And I think you
really.
still have friends from that school even to this day,
Yeah,
don't
a
you?
couple of them. Yeah, I know
Connections.
a
Yeah.
few of them,
Yeah.
which is good. Um, but then because I moved around so often that it's really hard for me to try and explain this, but
I
it's
can. Yeah.
it's not the language barrier anymore, but it's more on the social and you know what, humor is really hard.
Oh right.
I
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
so
even now, but maybe because my
I
humor's a bit twisted, but even now you still struggle. I think.
I do, yes. The only person I struggle with is you.
Yeah.
Like, but like I'm terrible with jokes, and I wish like I'll be. Maybe this is where you can step in and walk me through things, but
Yeah. I'll
um,
wait till you
little
finish. Yeah.
witty comments or jokes, and also like just watching comedy or just having a chat with a friend in general, like the jokes that they throw around. The humor in Australia and the humor in Japan is completely different.
Well, it
Completely
it
different.
is, but like but I guess my kind of humor is probably more in line with Japanese as well because it's just really out there and strange. Because there are some fucked up shit over.
No, no, you're a special case,
Oh,
I think.
thanks. Fucking hell. Uh,
But like you kind of get what I
yeah,
mean
I
if
know.
you watch Japanese like variety show or like
Oh,
a
I've heard of them.
comedy
Yeah,
or just even watching any TV show in Japan or probably any other Asian countries,
they're fucking weird.
that the overlays, the sound effects to
It's
like
very
all these
cartoonish,
like
kind of like
yes, it's very comical,
and
right?
very whimsical.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and so and there's a lot of like I cannot explain it. It's like a
slapstick.
very subtle no, but it's a very subtle side comments that you will do a lot in Japan, and
Ah,
it's found very funny, and I get that humor.
ah,
So when I first moved to Australia, I was more instilled with that, like more
yeah.
accustomed to it. So when I jumped into the Australian culture and the humor and the type of joke is just completely different, I struggle to
I think because
understand.
well,
So like there was always like a confusion like in the back of my head.
because
So
yeah,
I didn't have the language barrier, but there was
you have the
definitely a
context. Yeah,
barrier with yeah
the
in the
context.
context and other aspects of socializing.
So like just to kind of rehash things. So I'll touch on this because it's hot. It's in my head at the moment because there was another point I wanted to bring up, but I could say my own sense of humor, which is probably heavily influenced on an Australian kind of sense of humor, is like well my humor kind of relies on things like such as well, a lot of it is like meme humor, which is like just internet in general. When I feel sorry for you because now you're on the internet full time, so it's just like you got to get used to memes. But like,
Yeah, and I still don't really
yeah,
understand the
yeah,
memes.
and but like there's a few things I think with me why I'm so confusing with humor is that a lot of Australian humor is like sledgehammer over your head humor, like it's just
Mm,
straight in your face, kind of like you
yeah,
know, or like or like innuendo humor, which is a very
yeah,
yeah. But like for me, I have like that sledgehammer innuendo humor, and then I have like subtle meme humor, and then I have even like layers of humor that you have to think about it. Like the one about okay. So for example, I was talking to one of my friends, and I'll tell this joke, so we can put it into context, and it took you a little bit to understand too. So a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of my friends, and she's from New Zealand, and she was talking about how she was like, oh, can I go to like a Korean barbecue? And I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with the going to Korean barbecue? Like, just because she's like, oh, I'm in cultures, and I don't know if it's like culturally acceptable or not. Like, fuck off. Like, that's the thing. We have like fucking Chinatowns and Sunnybanks and everything. Of course, you can go in there, you know.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about like, oh, she's like, it's like this is how she literally started off the sentence. So you know how you're Asian? I'm like, the fuck is that supposed to mean? I'm just like, oh, you're so lucky I know you. Otherwise, I'd be mildly offended by it.
Yes, I know I am an Asian.
Yes. I'm reminded every single day when I look in the mirror. Thank you for reminding me once again. Anyway, so yeah, so she asked me that first. I'm like, okay, and then she goes on about the barbecue thing, and then I was just like, oh, okay, sure. No, it's fine. You can go to, you're able to eat anywhere. We have like Chinatowns and shit all over the place, so it's there for like tourist attractions. It's actually there for like quote unquote Western people to go in and eat. Like there are some places that are exclusively for Asians and stuff, but mainly it's there for like Western people to eat. I think your cam's frozen. Oh, I thought your cam was frozen. Anyways, and so I started talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, I've been craving meat at the moment." I'm like, "You're so fucking lucky, I know you." And then she's like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm digging myself a hole," and I'm just like, "Well, oh, it's like, and she starts talking about how she's craving like this kind of steak and red meats and everything like that. It's like, well, yeah, and I said to her, yeah, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's good to have a variety of meats. You can't always eat chicken all the time, and the kind of implication was like her boyfriend's white. So and so yeah, that's the kind of example where it's a sledgehammer hidden within a very subtle, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can, but then yeah, so that's a kind of different thing too. Like, so we, in terms of Australian humor and how the Australian culture is. But actually, yeah, here's the point I wanted to touch on, and I think maybe I feel like it's an exclusively Brisbane thing, and I could be wrong, but this is just. But I think it's notoriously hard to establish yourself in Brisbane to groups unless you have some kind of mass commonality. Like, say,
Okay. Yeah, alright, I know what you mean.
you know what I mean? And also, that's why I think sometimes you struggle with socially. Even I do, because it's just how the humor is tied to the social group as well at times. Because it's like they've to get the humor, you have to kind of be part of the group kind of thing. It's like an in joke almost. And so for me, I think that part of growing up, I would say I grew up not around here, but I won't go on my story now because it's pretty much been said and done. But when I got to Brisbane, and I'll reiterate this, I felt like a lot of the socialization was based upon existing in groups. That was to do with mainly people that lived their lives within Brisbane, and the exception or the rule was that people who have already who are well travelled or have come to Brisbane outside of Brisbane, but people who strictly were in Brisbane all their lives and didn't have very much multicultural interaction, I think they were more closed-minded in the sense of socializing and maybe speaking their mind a bit more. And I think, in this, and it's not only exclusive just to Brisbane. I mean, this is just the lived experiences that me and you probably can relate to. But like in swinging back to Japanese culture again, just out of we've kind of like trivia knowledge, but there is in the work society there is a very strong kind of like paradigm of like a dichotomy of like what you think and what you truly think and what you should say or what's polite to say, which I well, what is that called again?
Very much
Yeah.
of a herd.
Yeah.
So, like any aspect of you that, puts a flag, that flag's at, telling the society that you're just a little bit different out of the box,
Yeah.
they will think you're weird. And my friends from Japan, they have made comments to me. I mean, we both we all met each other in Australia, so they also have the same like Western influence and experience.
But yours is a little bit more pronounced than theirs would be because, in a sense.
Well, no, not so much. Like we do talk about ourselves a lot in this kind of like very different. I'll be
Outcast, pretty
oddball,
much.
yeah,
Yeah.
oddball out.
Yeah.
Like honestly, because and what was it like the other not too long ago when I caught up with them, they said that it's like see now this is getting really particular, so I'm gonna really struggle to explain this.
Okay.
But we're having a friendly conversation, right?
Yep.
And one person, one of the friends would say something, and normally as a Japanese person, you might kind of go on top of that to make a comment or
That's nice.
kind of make into like no, I mean like make a joke about it and just play along with it. And I don't know if it's just my personality,
So like humoring
or
the conversation. Yeah.
yeah, like see, this is the part where I talk about humor, where I still struggle to this day.
Yep.
Like I'm very, I don't know. Maybe it's just my
You
typical
just don't have a
upbringing,
sense of humor.
or I do, but I have a very dry sense of humor. So,
I'm not gonna touch that with a stick. Nah.
you disagree?
No, no, no. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, see, you can see that I don't get.
No, no. I don't want you to get it. Move on. Something about dry. No, move on.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. I thought it would be something like that.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, but then, they said that, like, a typical, like, Japanese person would, then, react in a certain way that would be considered, I don't know, I guess, normal, as usual. But then because I'm not, like, sometimes they might say something weird, or something that's considered weird in Japan. I would actually take it as it is, and I'm like, okay. And then so it's like they're sort of
You're not like.
stunned or shocked with my reaction
It's like
that I don't like.
you're not like uso nanda nande. It's kind of like bullshit like that.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
not
just
like
saying.
that.
I'm just saying. No, I get what you mean. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? And they said, yeah, we can never know what your reaction is going to be, so it's kind of like
Well,
exciting in a way because they just don't know how
I
they're
think
going to respond, and I'm like, am I that kind of person?
I think it's more. I think it's more the point that you subvert expectations when it comes to the reaction. So really, if they just think that she's not normal and she'll react differently, then it's not really surprising. If you get what I mean, like there's two levels of that. Like, but like I think for in that context of the conversation, I think it's more. I kind of want to say like it's a kind of a meme way to respond to something like it's like the laugh track on a joke, right? There's an expected way of reacting and a certain format of reacting.
And
Like
I'm sure there is a little bit to an extent in Western culture as well, but I'm just not like that. So
exactly.
they're like, I don't know, they just don't know how to respond to my response. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's kind of builds upon like maybe it's more the theme that we're trying to get to is like the expected reaction depending on which culture you're from, right? So I think that's more of the core of what we're trying to convey in this conversation right now is like, say for example, like yeah, like the kind of shitty kind of reply that I gave in like broken fucking Japanese. Like sometimes that's the response that you would expect, but then really it's more you're just like, oh really, so this car, and they just like move on, you know, and they're just like the fuck, where's the reaction? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah. So like, and then sometimes there's a little bit of cultural kind of like the cultural memory of it. Like say when someone says a certain phrase, and because it's so popular in that certain culture, then you're supposed to respond in a certain way or have a certain reaction. Like say it's the same way with memes. Like say when I say put a shrimp on the barbie, like people from Australia know what that is, and people know that it's fucking stupid because no one says shrimp in Australia, right?
Mm.
But you go to Japan or somewhere like that and say that and like, huh? You know what I mean? So I think that in a way that the kind of cultural kind of memory of it, I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say, would actually feed into the expected reaction of what you're supposed to do, especially in comedic situations. Because it's always kind of like, I guess there's like a quote unquote right response that they expect from you rather than the kind of dry, like, I see, moving on, you know?
Yeah. So this is why I probably will struggle, going there's just no way. I'll be like, people will think I'm weird.
I think I, I think that you'd just be very quiet because you'd be too self conscious to do anything, and they'll think you're weird anyways.
But like the thing is that the fact with what I'm doing at the moment, like the way I am, like I'm trying to do my brand and doing all these things. That's already classified as weird
Yeah.
because people don't do that. You
E-
know what I
even
mean?
even in Western society, that's not really a common thing to do. Like being your own fashion designer. No, no, really, it's not really a pathway that you think. It's maybe normalized in your lifetime because you've been stuck around the fashion industry quite a lot. But from an outsider's perspective, and this is coming from someone whose mother is a dressmaker, you know, it's not a very common path. If people who are interested in fashion, like let's be honest, people who get into fashion usually start off in fashion but end up somewhere else because for them it's not a tenable career path, or they end up working for some kind of corporate kind of thing, which you did in your lifetime, but rarely would they ever
But it was
branch.
still fashion anyway.
It was still fashion, but they rarely ever branch out to their own kind of business and start designing their own things. They're more either part of a team or they're in part of a corporation. They have some kind of structure above them that kind of guides where they work, not necessarily doing their own thing like you are. I don't think it's as common as you think it is.
Okay. So that's enlightening.
Yeah, because think about it, how many friends around you are actually designers like yourself.
No, it's just me.
Exactly, right? And people who are.
Fucking lonely,
Uh, uh, uh,
I need like people who's on
yeah.
around the same boat.
We can probably touch on that a little bit later, but just to kind of clarify this point, it's like even though you have friends within the fashion industry, like say your friends who you've worked with who have worked in the same kind of industry as you are, they haven't branched out to what you've done. So even in the Western kind of in the Western kind of thinking, it's something you're doing right now is something very unique, and it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's unexpected for both for all sides of culture really. So you're
I
special.
never thought that way. I'm special.
See, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to put that out there because it's just like you may think it's normal, but really, it's not that common, and I think it's a good thing that you're doing it, and especially from the angle you're taking it, like it's like you have a niche upon a niche, you know what I mean?
Well, look at me. I'm Twitch streaming, live
Oh,
streaming.
upon another niche, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you're a fashion designer who does organic, sustainable, eco-conscious, conscious clothing that streams her process on Twitch. It's like it just goes down like slowly, like cutting down. You may be the only person in the world doing this at the moment. You never know.
Yes, I think so.
At least on the Twitch platform.
Yeah, yeah.
So but like, so I guess you can feel special. You can feel lonely. Take it as you will. It's just like, but yeah,
Yeah, I feel both at the same time.
yeah.
But a lot of the times it's fucking lonely.
You only have me to shit talk you just through most of your streams. Oh. I think it's probably better than I don't know, how would you feel about like 50, 60 people in the chat room like blasting you with questions when you're trying to pump out like 26 garments.
I'll get back to you later. That's what I'm saying.
Chat off. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah, chat off, Discord me later.
yeah. But I don't. It's kind of interesting. Like, so we kind of go into this is kind of like a new work environment kind of topic where we're going into. It's like the way that we present our work now is a lot different. Like work from home is becoming a big thing because of Corona. Like you have kind of different social media platforms which are not really social media anymore. They're actually kind of professional business platforms. Like Instagram can be used for business. Facebook can be used for business. Twitch can be used for business. Hot tubs. Um, it's every single social media can be kind of monetized to a certain extent to further one's business. Which, if you think about it, say even 10 years ago, the closest thing you could get to that is maybe a Google listing. Like you put your fucking address out in Google and that's it. You wouldn't have all this other stuff. Like maybe a little bit longer than 10 years, but you get the point. So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how would they approach that in Japan? Because it's such a formal thing. Because like they still, how long do you think that whole business card thing is going to go for? Especially Corona,
Business what?
the business card exchange, like the kind of ritual around business cards.
Oh,
Like
I
you
don't know.
you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Like especially with Corona around, are they still gonna like hand each other businesses and then like bow to each other and then touch cards?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I can see that going on forever.
It'll
Like
be
it's just instilled in tradition. I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon, despite COVID. Like it's
just
funny. Japan is like so weird in the sense like Japan is considered one of the forward thinkers in technology and famous for like electronics and things like that, games as well. But and then so you have this impression, but then a lot of the times it's like backward.
I I would say I would say they favor like kind of these regulations and discourses over practicality sometimes. Is what really
Mm.
like sometimes it's they think that being able to just have a proper decorum when you're talking to your boss is more important than telling them the truth. For example, the whole
Yeah.
the whole concept. I can't remember the exact name. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation, but to speak one's mind or to speak what's to be expected. I don't know what it's called again. You know what it is, anyways, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so I think that that's the way I would describe Japanese work culture as kind of like formality and kind of conformity to the point of inconvenience.
Because they don't like confrontation.
That's
That's
true.
my summary.
I was just
They
I just had like a really funny idea. Just imagine like two businessmen bowing over and there's a QR code on their head, like scan. Well, that's the future
yeah.
though. I mean, I guess that could work. So here's my QR code, and then they scan that, and then like here's my QR
Well,
code, and
it
they scan
already
that.
exists. I can't remember the name of the company,
Oh
but
no, I know they
scan
exist,
QR codes. Yeah.
but I mean, as to replace the business card transaction. So the ceremony.
I'll definitely go with that because I'm all about sustainable
Yeah,
and eco-conscious and paperless
I know,
tradition.
but I mean for like just to be more ingrained in the culture, like this is probably an interesting point, like how sometimes technology can replace some of the old, more traditional ways of doing things. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, say this maybe that's the new way forward. Instead of exchanging business cards, they literally just like, you know, put like have some kind of symbol or some kind of QR code on them. They can just flash the other person. Or even now, maybe they'll just be okay with just like tapping phones or something like that, tapping the ends of the phones together, or sending a Bluetooth message to each other or something like that. Given.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people do that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes more sense. Like, I don't know. Can you think of any other kind of the outdated stuff that they do in Japan, and maybe think about like a futuristic solution
They
for?
want to, well, from what I hear, they love printing shit. They love paperwork. They love physical
So,
documents.
yeah, that's a
Whereas, like, a lot of the times, if you're in office environments, like, let's say here, that wouldn't happen. You know,
oh well, yeah. I
for
mean,
example, like, let's say there's a news reporter and for let's say Australia or probably other Western countries, like
yep,
news reporting on site, flash news,
hmm,
it's the reporter and the cameraman.
yep,
That's it.
yep.
But like apparently, from what I hear, is that there's like few more other people involved, like
Taking notes
for
and
a
shit.
crew
Yeah.
in Japan, and giving them like a printed handout and
Ah,
things like that. And it's just like it's kind of like double-handed. I mean, double handling because like a lot of the things like it can be done like instantly, like
but they kind of
possibly
stick to tradition and kind of like protocol.
tradition
Yeah.
to provide like this paperwork, like here you
It's
go,
something
like
physical and therefore more valuable or whatever the fuck they want to say. But like, okay,
um,
I mean, okay, sorry to do this to you again, but like, I can think of bringing up the whole office space. Then yes, I was working in an office for maybe a year or so, but more like on and off for 10. So I've had my fair share of like paper and stuff because I worked under my dad for his migration agency, and I did do quite a fair bit of paperwork. And
Oh, so
so
it's a bit different,
no,
right?
well. I can say right now, like this is an example of how things are kind of evolved and probably evolved for the better. Because my dad's a dinosaur; he likes everything on pieces of paper, and so but I like to digitize everything because the benefit of
Yeah.
digitizing everything is like you can always back it up for one, and two you can always make modifications without having to like redo the whole document. There's nothing worse than you filling out your immigration papers and realizing you answered a wrong question wrong, and then there's like another 10 questions that required like long form answers, and you're like fuck. It's just like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to rewrite the whole page
Uh,
again.
Speak of like paperwork, so I can share some of the insight. The company that I was working, like apparel background, and obviously when you're a product developer or some people might call it garment technician anyway, you have a design, you have different stages of approvals and strike offs or prototypes,
Hmm.
and you kind of oversee the whole process of developing until like a approved final garment, right?
Yep, yep.
So during the this course of process, like we always have like a folder dedicated to each styles, and you'll have submissions of strike offs or lab dips to approve the color or approve the fabric quality or whatever that's like to do with the design and the garment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was because of this particular company, that's just their company policy, or maybe this is a common thing shared across the globe. But during, like, say you have the submission, and then you'll write down, like, the date that you received or who received it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
kind of like a
then
paper
on top
trail.
of that, because, like, this whole trail and the history of the approval process, like say if something happens in bulk production, we always have to go back, so this becomes a bible. You're building a bible of the product.
Yep.
And so as a protocol, you write the email, you liaise with the manufacturers or suppliers, and this is approved, blah blah blah, and yes, I understand, and they might respond or confirm or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to print the email out,
Yeah.
highlight it, staple it onto it, and it's just like printing out, staple it, printing out, staple it,
Yeah,
and it's
no.
just like piles of like it's already in the email.
Yeah.
So it's like,
That
can't this
I think
go
I
digital?
think
It's just stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I know, and I'm
It's
I'm I'm kind of against that too. Mainly because it's just harder to access. Because for me, like I was if I was really going to become like a migration agent, which at one time I was thinking about doing, is that I'd have my instead of having a massive file cabinet with files in it and just like gut loads of paper, which will still happen. What I would do is like I just manage it all online. Like I'll manage it into like
yeah,
a filing cabinet system on my computer. And one of the things that I was really for kind of like advocating for within my at least between me and dad is just like digitizing all the documents because the thing is very important like so we can have all the originals just stashed away in like a file cabinet that's locked and secured, and then we can use all the documents online, like just have a scanned document of it, and so whatever happens to it, we still have the original. But if you're working with the original and then suddenly like something happens to it, you lose the original, you're fucked. It's like
yeah,
I mean, no sane person would give someone their original documentation, but in reality, sometimes you don't have a choice. So sometimes we may have their actual passport, and if we misplace that, shit's gonna go south. So for me, yeah, that's the big thing about digitization and maybe modernizing the way that we do things. And in recent years, what they've actually done with immigration is now they've fully converted at least some of their visas onto online only, or
mm,
available to do paper or online. And via online, what you can do is you can scan all your documents and then write your case and do everything like that online, submit it all. And
mm,
the thing that I was kind of, it was kind of a legalistic kind of view of it. Like So all they really need for you is to kind of quote unquote sign off on it, like say I allow this to happen. It's pretty much like a tick box or just an acceptance of responsibility over the documents that you've lodged. And also before, and also before they wouldn't accept scans, but now they do obviously. But it's for me. It was like not only that, it was just like a cut down of resources. So you wouldn't be. You should see some of the fucking migration files. I'm not even joking. Like this tall, like that's for like a spouse visa, right? Because like mountains of photos and shit like that, statements and everything like that. And one of the best things that I ever did when I was there was just to get each one of the, how you get the forms like SP40 or whatever it is, 47 SP or whatever one you want, like a 956 or whatever, right? Pre-fill everything that I know that's not going to change. Save that PDF. So next time I open it, just like half the questions are already finished, and such a good time saver as well. Plus reducing the amount of paper waste, because I did at the start I did do paper ones, but I was really bad at it. So sometimes I'd make mistakes. I'd either have to get fucking white out and white it out, which makes it look shitty, or start again. So I can only imagine that other industries like that, which are very heavily driven by bureaucracy and kind of like and documents and making sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, would have a lot of waste paper. Like just yeah, but I don't know. Like it's a bit. I think Corona is in some ways actually pushed us into more environmentally conscious kind of area as well. Not consciously, but like just because that you're not gonna send a fucking a letter envelope letter to your boss, right? You're just gonna send him an email, right? You're not gonna back in the day you may have to like formally send something from one office to the other via paper. Now it's just like, hey, I'm at home, here's an email.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I think just in work life in general it's kind of weird because I can't really say it with my kind of experience with work because I've kind of only had patches of work during my lifetime, but I'd say that I know that in Vietnam like a big thing between I think it was like at least 15 years ago, everyone used to come home at lunchtime and either pass the fuck out and eat lunch and pass the fuck out and then go back out at 3 until like 9 o'clock at night, then come back. It was a big thing.
Okay.
They used to do like 12 until 3.
Yeah.
So they can, but now they don't do it. It's just that they've become more like the West, the 9 to 5, or in the cases of Vietnam, 9 to 9. It's just like it's just crushingly long hours of work, and like to the point where even their work is kind of their house as well. Because you have a lot of home business. You have some home business here, but you literally have like a 7-Eleven that's built at the front of a house.
Yeah.
Like that's just it. Like a just or like something like one of those little kind of dollar store thingies, like a kind of convenience store slash dollar store, just at the front of the house. Kind of like the markets. You've been to Anala, how they have like markets outside. Just like picture all that crap at the front, but in front of someone's house, like a tiny little tin can of a house.
Sometimes you see that in Japan too.
Yeah, but there's a lot of that in Vietnam. Every single side shop, So there's really the more of the it's only really established businesses or like affluent kind of businesses that have their own little establishments, and even then they're kind of like the size of maybe the size of one of the small like tin can kind of like one of those capsule stores, the little tiny tin can ones. Yeah, that's the common size of the store in Vietnam, but they work long hours. Holy shit! But then it's not really work if you're working from home. I don't know, like they can kind of take it easy, but there are some people who actually have their work and their home in a very commercial area. So I can only imagine how fucking stressful that is. Because it's like, imagine if you had like imagine if we had like Brisbane markets every single day, and you're selling product every single day, but you also live there. That's the kind of that'd be really stressful.
I think so. Yeah.
Because it's gonna be loud as all hell, and and because you're always there to try to make a profit. You'll be working till like 10, 11 o'clock, waking up at 5, 6 o'clock to start work. Because especially if you're in like the service industry, holy shit, like food and shit. Yeah, no, you'll be working all day. But yeah, But the sad thing is that sometimes that's not even enough to live. They may not get enough sales to actually support themselves, so they have to work those long hours just to survive, which is, something that I think a lot of people take it granted for in like Western society, because we have a protection of minimum wage, whereas I know maybe in Japan there's a kind of a similar thing. I'm not 100% sure they have a minimum wage or not. I'm pretty sure they have some kind of sort of protection there. But in Vietnam, it's just like, hey, if you want to work for equivalent of 5 cents a day because you have no other better work to do, then that's what we're gonna pay you, literally.
Oh shit.
Like like or you can either pay you. Then what we'll do is we'll just provide you with like maybe like a piece of bread or something like that to help you survive each day. But besides that, we're not paying you, or some kind of like agreement like that can happen in Vietnam still, obviously.
Yeah.
And but a lot of people in Vietnam are kind of like self traders. But yeah, like, that kind of stuff does happen. Like they get horribly underpaid. There's no kind of protections and everything like that. You're either
Yeah.
on the street or doing
Basically anything is possible.
pretty much like the disparity between poor and rich is so much worse in Vietnam than here. Like not so much a scale, because obviously there are a lot richer people in here than there are in Vietnam in comparison. Like scale in terms of scale, but in terms of living standards, like if you're in poverty here, you can survive. Like it's still tough, but you can survive. If you're in poverty in Vietnam, you're eating trash to survive. Literally, you're on the street, like nowhere to sleep, kind of like eating trash to survive. It's the bottom of the bottoms. So in a way that it's kind of a kind of a weird situation where the working environment in Vietnam is quite brutal, because they know the consequences of not burning themselves out at work is being on the street. Whereas here it's just like you might be able to get settling for a couple of months to get yourself off the ground, or if you're really dodgy, you might be able to live off it. Not saying that's recommended, but people do that. So I think that's a huge difference in terms of the Vietnam work culture, and in terms of
Going off a tangent, do you think that causes that kind of changes the mindset of people in Vietnam, let's say, versus here? Because there's a lot more risk of that happening to them. Therefore, it might trigger more anxiety, more fear. Are they more stressed? I don't know.
this is a very complicated question, because the same Asian rules applies on mental health in Vietnam than it would in most other countries. Like it's a very taboo topic, even though it's quite prevalent. People don't want to talk about it, and I think the problem. I think that with Vietnam, it's a strange thing because we're becoming quite Americanized. So we're realizing that there's a different way to do things, like. And a lot of people are coming to Australia, to America, to kind of get away from that kind of very formulaic, kind of strict regime of work or die kind of thing, and they can see that things are a little bit more relaxed over here. So that's why we have the big push factor of people coming out of Vietnam and going to other places. But yes, for certain there is a lot of stress on people, and I think and this is another cultural thing that happens in it. There's a lot of, and I know it's a big thing in culture. There's a lot of comparing people. Like say, oh, the person's in the same grade, got a higher grade than you. Why can't you be like them? And it's like it's like it's the academic version of a dick measuring contest, really. And like all parents do that. All parents do that in kind of Asian culture. They kind of compare and contrast you, or they might even go like, when I was in high school, I did so much better than you. Well, you're a disappointment or whatever. There's this kind of there's this kind of heavy tone of shame and expectation, and like and like following the mold, like following the footsteps of those who have done well. Like the kind of thought is like the pathway is already there for you to walk, and if you can't walk on a straight path, then there's something wrong with you. I think that's the kind of feeling I get. You know what I mean? Like say, here, I've given you directions to the treasure chest. Now don't go anywhere else. But then you're like, wait, there's like a cave of fucking gold in the other place. Can I go there? Nope. You go straight to the treasure chest. Otherwise, you failed your mission. That's the kind of feeling I get about Asian culture sometimes, because
Yeah.
it's very very set in its ways. But at the same time, now that we're getting the kind of multicultural thing, people are opening up a little bit more. So a lot of people are going over to Australia. A lot of people are kind of not putting up with the whole kind of situation they're in. So yeah,
Yeah.
well, sorry, that's my kind of ranty rant on like what we've been talking about today. But yeah, shit, told you it was a complicated question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but like I don't know, like maybe I know that over in France they have a 4 day workday, don't they?
I don't know. Maybe there is. Not that I know of. But
Well,
in some aspects, it's very similar to um, Japan. But from what I hear, like, okay, let's go back to Japan. So typically, like, and maybe this is like including other Asian countries, but if your boss is in the office, you
oh
don't
yeah,
leave.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
same goes to France, apparently, a lot of the times in a typical office environment.
hmm
But because obviously, unlike Japan, there's, I don't know, maybe there is in Japan, but like it's kind of like the opposite spectrum. So obviously, like Australia, we have like, say if you're working in an office environment full time, like your quota is like 7.5 hours,
yeah.
excluding lunch breaks, like a day, right?
You'll clock off
So
exactly at that time because you're not paid a
yes,
second more.
well that's another thing. That's another conversation about Australian like typical office. Except maybe I'm not the best example to sort of like talk about it
Yep.
because I'm from a fashion background. That's completely different. It doesn't matter where you are
It,
in fashion. You work like a dog.
it's kind of like it depends on what kind of work you do, but say for a typical office job, like say you're doing like
Mm.
accounts or something like that, something that can
Yeah.
be that won't is
Five
in.
o'clock? 5 o'clock? You're
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
school.
it's something that's inconsequential on the deadline. Not as much as like other things. Like say if you're a fashion designer and you got something to do tomorrow, yeah, I need to get this done. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. I'll just fuck off right now. No, that's not going to happen. You're going to work until you finish it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Even if it's 10, some people stayed in the office till like probably 10 p.m., 11. Fucking insane. But going back to France, it's a bit similar to Japan in that respect. So you don't really leave the office if the boss is still like around, and it's usually like the case anyway. So they come in work late
yep,
because it's like if you come to work like at 9 a.m. and then did 7.5 and your home time is 5 p.m. but then you can't leave, then it's like what's the point,
yeah,
like you're doing overtime. So therefore a lot of people go to office around 10:30,
yeah, yeah.
maybe 11.
Would
They
the
have
boss already be there
long
though?
lunches.
Would the,
No, everyone comes in late. I don't know.
yeah,
I actually don't know. I never really asked too deep about it, but yeah, when a couple of my French friends were talking about it, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So in that sense, it's kind of got like a similar working life to Japan because typically you'll finish or get out of work around 8 p.m. And this is why the French time, they have dinner late.
yep,
So if you're in France, like bistro or like other restaurants will be open till like
12 or something like that. Yeah,
mid 12, 1
yeah,
a.m. because people eat late.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I think the overall theme when it comes to that kind of thing is I think it's something called appeal to authority or something. It's a very there's a very hierarchical system going on here, right? So I think that's probably in general what's ingrained in Japanese culture is the hierarchy of the system. So in the kind of I guess in a kind of strange way, they revere the boss, kind of like the boss is someone that is I guess it's kind of like, if you think about it, a gang, right? The bosses, you got to follow anarchy, all the way,
Yeah.
you know. But it's just strange to see, like, we don't have that kind of culture in Australia, because most of us hate our bosses, and that's the. I know I shouldn't talk about my dad that way, but no, I'm just kidding. But most a lot of people will have resentment against their boss, and it's always, we have this kind of, in Australia we have the kind of working class people, the tradies, the kind of, we kind of glorify tradies. Like, it's not like in other places, the old tradie with the blue shirt and the ute and the dog in the ute, he's got like a stubby in his hand. It's such a thing. He's like fixing the drain and his ass cracks hanging out and that kind of stuff. It's a very Aussie, it's a very Aussie thing to kind of think about. Or not to think about at all. But like, we kind of we have this kind of cult around the tradie, the kind of working class, that I don't think many other countries do have. Because it may come back to our roots as a colonial offspurt, one of the prison colonies of Great Britain. But in the way while some cultures really look down on like the working class, the people doing the trade jobs, doing the utility jobs and stuff. In Australia, it's kind of like a strangely revered slash, acceptable way of doing. Because I think we have I think the tradies are just below professional class working people in terms of the hierarchy. I think we have like fast food workers and people like doing kind of store clerk kind of jobs that are actually below tradies in Australia, which is weird when you think about it, right?
Is it?
Well, you think about it. Usually they should be treated in the same class, right? They're like, oh, they're not really doing anything of a higher standard. They're just doing trade work, which is a very unskilled. It's like unskilled labor. You know what I mean? Well, there's a perception that some of it's unskilled labor. Let's say,
Yeah, I guess I can see there will be a stereotypical perception of that, but
it's like we don't think of anything about what's his name, Jim's mowing, right? Like, there's guys like mowing lawns, and that's perfectly acceptable for us, and he's probably making a killing, and we see that as probably more successful than of someone working at a store, even if they're the manager of the store is like, hey, he's his own owner, he's got his own lawnmower, he mows lawns for a living and makes lots of money out of it, which is kind of a strange thing to think about it, right? Because he's a businessman. And then
well, probably strange from an typical Asian perspective, because
yeah.
a lot of the times, kids are, pushed by their parents to get a law degree
Yeah,
or
exactly, a professional.
anything in the medical field,
So like a very
an accountant,
a high technical and like a high kind of qualification, high technical
work
kind of
at
thing.
the banks, be the financial advisor, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and and also in Vietnamese, we also have we have I don't know, maybe I just picked this up from my crazy ex-wife, but like there's a term that I think it's a borrowed term from another language called osin, which means it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek way of calling like a helper, like a servant almost. I think that's why I interpret it as. And then usually students or poorer people that are hired in to do housework, kind of like it is really like a butler almost, like a service,
Yeah, right.
which is fucking weird. But I mean, hey, if we're paying them well, I don't really care. That means if it's like $5 a day for them to clean the house, I don't fucking care. But if it helps both of us, right? But like, I think that they're really. I get a feeling that maybe it's just in my particular experience, which is probably not endemic of whatever else is happening outside. But I think that they're kind of treated like second class citizens because, hey, you're cleaning my house, for like $5. And really, they think of it as a steal as well. It's like, hey, I get $5, which is like enough for me to eat for a few days, and all I have to do is clean rubbish around the house, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, in a way, it just depends on the culture. Because even though that, I would say they're being looked down quite a lot in Vietnamese culture, I'd still say that they're still like an exchange of labor, and it's still tenable for them to do so. But it just kind of surprises me. There's actually a terminology that kind of roughly translates to like, house servant. kind of
Yeah,
kind of demeaning in a way.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I didn't really like it. Not like I'm gonna go back to Vietnam anytime soon.
Yeah. Do you think you will go back?
Maybe if I find another Viet girl, I don't know. I don't think I'd go back on myself.
Yeah,
Maybe if I had some like friends or something going with me. I don't like traveling alone. It's like
yeah,
maybe not.
yeah, fair enough. Mm.
But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of like at least the Vietnamese perspective and the Australian perspective how we kind of work. I mean, I think we covered Japanese perspective pretty well as well, or to what we believe it to be. Don't take it as the total truth because neither of us have really been in that space for a significant amount of time to really comment.
We're the inferiors.
The gaijin.
Yeah, I will be totally gaijin.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah. Hey, Attack. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Uh, how good's bun meat? Yeah, the girl's volume is low. Oh, that's because she's not speaking into the fucking mic. She's like laid back.
Yeah, I'm laid back,
Yeah,
like an Aussie.
yeah, she's fucking laid back. Well, if you're in the Sydney area, I can recommend a place. It's the Cabra. I wouldn't say it's bun meat, like the meat version, but the chicken rolls over at the station, like the place right near the station is pretty nice. Yeah, 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 yeah. I miss those chicken rolls. I haven't been there for ages, but they're really nice, and I think their bun meat is pretty good as well. But I haven't been there for a long time. Yeah, Cabra for life. You might not be able
No,
to
it's
see the
not bad.
chick. Yeah, it's a tack clown.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see the chat.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I remember before you couldn't see the chat, but yeah, we
No,
were.
no, because I have our pitch.
Yeah. So yeah, we were just talking about Aussie life. I mean, you could give us a bit more perspective. What's it like working for the big man in Australia? Because I work for my dad, and he's not really Australian. He's a fucking old Vietnamese fart. Yeah. Because we were just saying that we kind of revere the tradie, which is kind of weird when you think about it. Like, hey, a plumber. You think about it, a plumber is like makes more money than most fucking professionals.
Mm.
Isn't that insane? You think someone that cleans your toilet and like does your pipes? I mean, actual pipes, not a euphemism. Makes like fucking makes fucking more money than a banker, or as much money as a banker or something. At sometimes, a
Oh,
locksmith. A locksmith, oh, you call me after hours to open your
oh,
door? Yeah, that's gonna
oh,
cost you extra.
big bucks.
Yeah, I know. She's like, oh, you need to. It's like a guy you think about that, right? So a guy that's legally allowed to break into your house is getting more money than you at work for doing it.
Yeah. Actually, I can't remember which one it was. Was it either locksmith or uh, water
Roadside.
pipes?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um, um, so, like from a business point of view, when you're doing Google Ads and you have like bids in certain keywords, right?
Yep.
And one of the most expensive keyword is like something along the line of like the 24/7 locksmith or
Mm-hmm.
24/7 what's the word for it? The when the water pipe
Plumber.
breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plumber.
plumber.
Yeah.
That's like it's like legit like
Yeah,
probably
because
more
they
than
make an
50
absolute.
bucks
Them.
50 bucks a click. A
They
click.
they make absolute killing out of it because
Yeah.
they're legally able to charge like overtime, like because you're
Yeah,
it's
it
not it's
goes
not
to show how much money you can make
that's what I mean. Like we
with
kind of have a
such a
special
hot keyword.
we have a fucking soft spot for like the tradies in Australia. It's not like that. It's not like that anywhere else. It's just like yeah, electricians as well. But I mean, like electricians, I can kind of understand because it's like it's a very highly specialized thing. You need to know what you're doing, otherwise you're gonna die, quite literally.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, you need to have a proper license for
yeah,
it as well.
because like a plumber, what's he got to do? Is he the worst he can have is quote an excuse the pun have a shitty day. You know what I mean? But yeah, like it's yeah, pretty much. But like I don't know, like well, if you have any work stories and stuff, you know, is it true? Am I just being overly bogan, or is it kind of like, you know, it's usually like unless you like your boss, it's usually fuck the boss. As soon as it hits 5 o'clock, I'm fucking out.
Mm,
But
yeah, Australia, in Australia, it's very much so, isn't it? 9 to 5, and I mean 9 to 5.
yeah, you know, and also, but the only time I think of it depends on the scarcity of the work because sometimes people will voluntarily stay back a little bit just to, you know, get the kiss up to, you know, kiss the ass, you know. But like, I mean, that's the thing. Another thing that's a very Australian thing to do. You know, once if someone's like putting extra work in to kind of secure their job, we're kind of like looking at them in like a kiss ass. Oh, stop kissing the boss's ass, sucking his balls or whatever. You know, stop trying to curry favor with the boss. You know, we kind of discourage it, which is kind of weird because like, if someone wants to do extra work, you know, fucking do it. Because even I said that to one of my friends who was like working at somewhere. I'm like, you don't have to do this, you know. They're not paying you for it, so why the fuck are you doing it, you know? Yeah, but yeah. See, I'm validated, you know. Just because I'm a person of color doesn't mean I can't tell the truth. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of insane to think that oh, some places are like, you know, you make fun of the boss, you're gone, you know. You don't do what the boss
Yeah,
says, and you're gone, you know. Even though it's
yeah.
like very shady and shit,
Rejected out of the herd.
you know. I think in Australia we got it pretty okay when it comes to work, but yeah, we still it doesn't stop the culture from getting weird when it comes to like the worker and boss relationships, you know. I don't know how you were in your company when you were working there, but yeah,
Me?
yeah. Did you did
Wait,
did
in
you did
Australia?
yeah did you have a amicable relationship with the management above you, or is it just, or did you think they were incompetent?
Yes and no. I mean, I've worked in few different places, but one was great.
Mm,
He was really good boss, and actually, sometimes, well, from my opinion, it's really hard to find good bosses because,
yeah.
and I've been in situation where, maybe someone was like like a regular employee who suddenly got promoted and became a manager, but without necessarily the management skills.
So
Like,
in your opinion, let's make that clear. In your opinion.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, some I didn't get along with at all. I didn't like it. But I'm more like, I tend to um, go in my corner like a little mushroom and just get the work done. And I'm out of
Natsuko's
it.
corner.
So
It's no longer
I'm a bit like that.
there's no longer a
I hate
room.
the politics.
It's
I
no
hate the
longer a room.
politics
Yeah.
and hierarchy and all the bullshit. You have the job, you get the job done, and I'm out of here because obviously now it's a different situation because I'm working for myself and
Exactly.
I'm working on my own assets. Like you're building your asset. It's completely different
From
standpoint where you're working your ass off for someone else's money. Like that's how I see it.
So yeah, it's kind of like the sociological theory of like, you know, you're creating your own value instead of being exploited to create value from someone else's product or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
I'd rather be broke like that. And yeah, some you've seen me selling for the last like 4 or 5 weeks and hating life, but hey, this is an
yes, I
experience,
know,
and
I know. I
it's
hear about it.
made.
I hear about it on a daily basis. But yes,
But yeah.
Ganbatte. But yeah, I think I'm kind of the same in that sense too. Because like it was just lucky that my dad was my boss, so he didn't give a shit what I did, so long as I did the work. So just like, all right, here's what I'm done. Oh, you already finished? Yeah, it was pretty easy. I already half of them were already answered. It's just like next, you know. 'Cause I just get systems up for myself. Like I'll just rock up a bit late. I mean, sometimes it'd be a little bit too slack for his liking, but yeah, I don't think I think I'm the same. I'm more of an independent worker, but it works for and against me
Yeah.
because I'm hard with motivation. Like I can be like this ultra motivated person that does. I would argue that in my product, when I'm productive, I probably outwork you, but that's like 10% of the time. Like I can go like literally 3 days straight with no like hardly any sleep and work my ass off like 2 to 3 hours of sleep each night, but then go like 3 months without doing shit. So I kind of gotta equalize it out a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like, especially that a lot of people are working from home and with all the pandemic and stuff, I think that it changed a lot of people's perspective
Yeah, that's a big
from
thing for me as
working
well.
life. And
I think
yeah,
people. I
a
think
lot of
people.
things that you realize that you took it for granted, things that you didn't realize that was actually important, that was more valuable in life. It's
I
not
th-
just about money.
I think a lot of people have become less judgmental as well. It's not about
Yeah.
it's not about the pecking order so much. It's about just getting work done, however way you can do it. And I think rightfully so. People are appreciating the kind of persistence and the perseverance of the individual to still do their work in these kind of hard times while they're locked up at home and probably struggling with XYZ kind of mental kind of challenges and stuff, because being home alone is not always the greatest thing. I mean, I enjoy it because my past kind of dictates that I want to be left the fuck alone most of the time. But like for a lot of people, that they struggle because there's as again, it's the kind of work culture when they go in for their morning coffee, say hi to the barrister and have a good old chat about how their weekend was going. Go into the office and say hi to the receptionist. Maybe make a pass at her before you go into your office, and like all this other stuff. Talk to your coworkers, organize your nightly drinks with the coworkers, and then go out and then maybe go out on the weekend. We'll go out for some tennis or some kind of sporting event. So people kind of miss that kind of interaction, and I don't blame people for doing that. It is hard. It is quite jarring for them to suddenly go, well, the best we can do is maybe go for Google Hangouts on the weekend. We'll talk.
Yeah.
It's like maybe we can play some Xbox games over the things. Like I don't have an Xbox. Oh shit, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing. That we're kind of direct at the moment, especially now that we're in lockdown for another day. Everyone's weekends are dashed. Because it's just like, wow, Saturday we're gonna have to be at home on Saturday. So what are we gonna do? So I think, in a way, that now the work environment has changed, and I don't know, like, have you heard much from your parents about how I mean, I think you said that Japan's kind of gone back to normal just with the social distancing kind of rules in place, according to what your dad said.
More my friends because
Oh yeah, yeah,
they're both working in Japanese companies. But
yeah.
I think not much has changed too much.
Yeah, I think I remember you telling me they kind of went back to normal, just a bit more wary about social distancing and stuff.
But from a working perspective, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah,
I think my friend is working from home at the moment.
that's a
Or
very
like
common thing.
half in, half out.
Yeah, I mean, what used to be a sign of respect and kind of high ranking kind of like stature in society, like, oh, I have my own office in the city, it's not so important anymore. I mean, it's nice, but like you don't turn up it's more the fact you don't turn up your nose at people who say, oh, I work from home. You know what I mean? Because like before, work from home is like, oh, you're so lazy, you should have your own office. Oh, I've got this office in the city, isn't it great? And you're working from fucking home in your pajamas. You know what I mean? So no, I think it's a good sign, and I think in terms of not only for the mental health, but also for just in general the kind of general and consumerist and kind of environmental factors. Because like, fuck having a coffee every morning, going out and spend $5 for a fucking half decent coffee, maybe not even a decent coffee, right? And then it's like the plastic and the stirring rods and the fucking sugar. Because whenever I ask for sugar, I ask them to put it in there for me. Because one, it mixes better, and two, and usually they just take it out of the sugar that's already there. So I'm like, I don't need to open a packet. It's like, why do I need to open a packet of sugar? Because I just want fucking sugar. And like,
Yeah.
and then like, there's all the fucking cartons of milk they have to get rid of and all this kind of shit. The cups and stuff. Like, although they'll sell you some overpriced shitty mug and say, hey, you get a free coffee for it. It's only going to cost you $10. You know what I mean? And then you forget to bring it next time. And so I don't know what, like other things, like say eating out as well. That actually saves probably a lot of. I think that saves a lot of money, not so much waste, because you could be lazy like my friend is like, oh, I had fucking party pies. And well, I guess it's probably less waste than cooking stuff in industry, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of benefits to working from home, but the kind of mental consequences of such, we don't really know quite yet. We assume that everyone's having a hard time dealing with work from home, but I don't know. Even if we get over this, I don't know if everyone's going to go back to renting out fucking, complexes in the city to do their offices.
I think co-working space is already booming. I think a lot of companies and businesses realize that they can still operate without having an actual office rented out.
I think,
I think a lot of businesses will move on to co
like just
sharing space.
And I think the consequences of that, there's a few reasoning, right? It's because that people are more accepting of it, right? Because the old time when you go and the old thing they say, you always never go to a mechanic that has his hands clean. You always want to go to the mechanic that always got who looks like absolute garbage and fucking dirty as shit, because it means he's actually getting stuff done. He's doing work. You never want to you never want to eat in a dirty kitchen or whatever. Like those kind of signs, like say you never want to walk into a cheap looking lawyer's office, because it means he might not be very good. But for now, it's like, hey, if I have to meet someone online for a lawyer consultation, that's fine. So I think it's just the fact that because of Corona, we're more accepting of different circumstances that we usually would be more judgmental about. And I think that's allowed companies to kind of save costs, because companies are always going to save costs. If they say, well, I can either rent an office like for $1,000 per person per week, or I can let them work at home. Fuck that, I'll let them work from home,
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah. So I think it just helps that I think more people are accepting of the fact that circumstances are changed and the traditional work life isn't really a tenable solution anymore, which I'm still more concerned from a sociological perspective how that will affect just work life in general. Because the office life would really provide you with at least that outlet of communication and kind of socialization. But if you're all working from home, I can't imagine that it's going to be very good for your social life. It's like, well, I work 9 to 5, but I'm usually stuck at home, because sometimes
It depends on people.
it is. But I mean, well, you got to assume that the majority of people would be more inclined to be socially active than they are to be at home. So they might miss those interactions, those small interactions, like talking to their favorite barrister or the barista, and going in for lunch at their favorite spot and talking to the owners and whatever. Maybe those interactions are a lot more important than people give credit to, because they literally help you keep you sane sometimes, because it's like that constant kind of human interaction that helps you regulate your emotions and kind of process new information and process different points of views that otherwise you wouldn't get when you're at home sewing like a madwoman for like 4 weeks. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that people like it or they don't. I certainly love it. I think it's great. But obviously I make the time when I can to catch up with friends, and I get this, socializing aspect outlet that way, even though I might be working on my own most of the time.
Yeah, I think it's
I think with a couple of comments that I've heard recently is like, I think some people are feeling a little bit more lazy to get out now.
that's yay.
We're so used to being in lockdown or isolation or whatever, and half the time we're working from home. It's like,
It's like,
yeah,
what?
it's a bit cold.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean that?
Get dressed,
It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I always get out. I get out on Twitch every single day. What do you mean I need to socialize? I socialize with people on Twitch every day. That counts, doesn't it? I watch Hot Tub Girls. Leave me alone. It's like, well, you got to spend your money on something. It's like, well, donations are a thing. Man, if I donate an extra $10, she's gonna get a new outfit next time. Oh my god.
We should do a dance for this.
Oh god. But yeah, that's a bit of a sidetrack. But yeah, but as I was saying, it's just like it's kind of like, yeah, I think everyone's just still kind of waiting for the pin to drop in terms of like, hey, it's safe to go out again, which may not happen for a while. But I mean, I don't blame people being overly cautious. But at the same time, yeah, maybe sometimes people are being like, a little bit too paranoid about it. But yeah, I can see why it's like, well,
Very too paranoid.
yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I can see the issue. Like, hey, I don't really feel like going out, so why should I? Especially if there's a risk of getting sick, And it's not like we have a choice at the moment, anyways. So, but like, I'm just trying to play like kind of see both sides and say like, for me, my concern would be for people who are usually workaholics, and those like, for yourself. I mean, I consider you a workaholic, but at the same time, you've actually had the time to kind of socialize and build yourself a community, build yourself some friendships and stuff. So you have that network behind you. But if you've just come straight out of uni and you've just gone straight into work life, and you're just like dedicated to your work, and now you're working from home, so where's your socialization coming from? Like, would you even possess the amount of skills to socialize with someone even on Twitch? And trust me, you see that a lot. a lot of people are like, I have no idea how to interact with people on Twitch. So, you're hot. What are you wearing? Like, what color's your bra today? It's like, that kind of bullshit. But it's just weird. I mean, I understand that, like, especially in Asian culture, a lot of our parents will say, "Hey, don't worry about the social life. Don't worry about the girlfriends. Don't worry about all that shit. Get yourself a good job, a house, and a car, and everything will be fine." But it doesn't matter if you're a dumbass and the first thing you say to a girl is say, "Hey, sexy girl, wanna bang?" You know what I mean? If you're a complete idiot and you can't like in sweet talk even a tiny bit, I don't know. Like, you might be able to pull it off at Yumi's or something, but that's different. Yumi's, if you don't know, is special services. that's my one. But I mean, it's kind of concerning, and from my point of view, because I am a sociologist, it's very interesting for me to look at people and go, hey, like, finding balance in their life is so hard, because and then you add to the fact that, say, in my particular case, like, not only do I have like a box set of K-drama just looming around my head, but also the fact that I live in Brisbane, and they're quite, and as we kind of touched on before, they can be quite tribalistic. So, I mean, I've managed somehow to get myself a good network of friends, and I'm very thankful for that. And also, I'm reasonably sociable. Like, I can read social lines pretty well, so I can make friends pretty much wherever I go, because I just try not to be a shit, pretty much. But some people just don't have that filter. People will just go up and say, "Hey, you're hot. Give me a number." Oh, "Hey, what's up, man? Oh, man, you're so fat." Like, no, not fat, like PH fat, just fat. Like, they'll think that's funny, but then they just go, well, no, that's just being like fucking a shithead. And so I worry about those kind of people who are like, working so hard that they don't have the social life to back themselves up. And I think that's the most danger we're going to encounter coming on with this, with the more lockdowns are going. It's like people are just continually going to have hard time socializing with people, because they don't even have the basic socialization of their workmates, because they'll be at home all the time. It's not like you're going to sit there with it's like, oh, I wonder who else from work is on fucking Zoom. I'll just call this person and talk to them. You know what I mean? That's not going to fucking work. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, what are you wearing today? It's like, what the fuck? No, it's a bit fucking weird. So I don't know how they're going to resolve that. I know in Singapore, this is a kind of interesting way we can wrap it up with. I know in Singapore they had such a problem with the workaholic kind of culture that the government had actually had to step in and make like fucking like high school kind of dances and fucking functions for people to meet and bang to get their because their child birth rate was so low that it was in the negatives.
Yeah, right.
So they had to actually make social functions for people to go out and meet other people, and go have children. So just imagine if like fucking the Australian government just made a Tinder. That's I think the equivalent of the Australian government going, "Hey, this is an Australian government approved Tinder." Yeah, well, I don't know. Ask no secret about that. The dating app,
I don't know. I have no idea. I never use a dating app, so.
they're trash.
I-
Oh yeah. Attack, you might approve of this, and I'm sorry, Netsuko, for telling this one again, but you'll survive. So one of the best thing about the only thing that I really do on dating apps is just troll people. One of the ones was like a girl was like pretty cute girl. She's like, oh, together we can go wine tasting with one another. And so I replied, yes, this is the only time I'll let you spit.
Did she get it?
No, I didn't send it. I'm not fucking insane. I'm not fucking insane. I don't want to be put on a fucking list. I'm good, thank you very much. It was just in my head at the moment. At the time, I'm like, oh, that's a bit risque. I don't think I should send that. See, I have that filter in my head. Unless a man would send that straight away. And that's what I worry about. People who say that kind of shit just thinking that it's charming, not even knowing that it's a troll. It's trolling the fuck out of people. I'm not kidding. Some people would actually think, oh, that's such a fucking smooth line, man. When you say it, like... But yeah, anyways. Oh, jeez, that was a bit of a... So yeah, any other... any other comments on the work life, and are you going to poison that dog next door or not? It's just like to Netsuko's cooking channel. Today we were having wiener sausages. Oh dear.
Never.
So what you got planned for the rest of the day then?
Me?
Yeah.
Selling, man.
Just like
What else?
Yep, fine. Yeah, I'm gonna stream, and probably this is my work, and I'm not even getting paid for the fucking shit. Like, make me affiliate already, Twitch, so I can monetize my shit, and then get promptly banned for being inappropriate.
Well, at least as long as you're doing what you're enjoying and
Well,
you've got your basic needs, then the rest, why not?
exactly right, and I think that's the takeaway that we kind of concluded about the working life in general from all countries. Fuck it, so long as you got a roof over your head, and you're happy, or relatively happy, then fuck what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, we have been talking for a while now, believe it or not. An hour and 40 minutes. Well, I've been talking for a while now, sorry.
You have.
Sorry. Oh, my bad. Oh, shit. Anyways, anything else you want to do? Or what do you want to talk about next week?
I don't know. Ideas?
Attack? This is your time to chime in and ask.
This is your moment.
You got one shot. Charmeleons. What? Pokemon? No.
Well, to give you some hints, we usually talk about Asian upbringing, so culture,
Aussie stuff even.
social, living abroad, because we've spent most of our lives in Australia.
I've gone back to Vietnam a
Yeah.
couple of times, that kind of thing. We could even
Cultural
talk.
shock moments.
We could even talk about cultural stuff within Australia. Like I could talk about Cabra for years, and one was maybe going in different communities we kind of touched on that. When you went to the maybe we can phrase some different questions about your time in Central Australia, and say get some kind of more insider questions about that. I don't know, but we'll think of something.
Alice Springs is in lockdown. Can you believe that shit?
I know, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's still in lockdown. Yeah.
you look down.
It's like no. I mean, I said like no. It's like it's in the middle of nowhere, and it's all and it's even in lockdown. It's like what the it's the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again. Sorry, my apologies for shit talking too much. That's just a big fault of mine. But what do you? Huh?
I know you mentioned something
We
last
could
week that we could talk about this week, but
we could talk about something different, like something completely different, but maybe something about maybe sport or something like that. How the perceptions of sport of men and women and cultures and stuff like that. Maybe if you have some insight about that, what was it like?
Sports industry is sexist.
Yeah, well, we know that, but maybe into different degrees of like, say, what is it like in Japan? What is it like in other places you've gone? What is it like in France? Even, I know in Australia it's kind of like, yeah, it's all men's sport. And nobody watches women's sport. Like, even in tennis, I don't know, I don't enjoy women's tennis. But yeah, we'll think of something. We'll think of we can probably play around with gender issues and culture issues and other kind of stuff, and just pick up a subject that kind of interests you at the same time.
Yeah.
We'll take suggestions on Discord. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, again. Oh well, unless we have anything else to cover, I should let you go back to sewing.
Yes, and I'll let you get back to your streaming.
Yeah, well, more rants, no, undoubtedly, and probably some speed runs. Oh, tradies! No, I did say butt cracks. Look, have you covered no tradies and short shorts? I did say that every tradies usually has like a ute, has a dog in the back of the ute, has like his blue shirt, and usually got like plumber's crack wherever he goes. Yep, exactly. So but we still revere them as like gods of Australian culture. Let's be honest. We we kind of worship the crack.
Does not exist in.
we worship the crack. All right, more ways than one. Oh man, slot 50s. Ka-ching. Wait, if you slot 50 in it, will like a bubblegum ball fall out? What? You have to twist. Don't accept. On that bombshell.
Dirty mofo.
It's so much worse when I'm live, isn't it? Like, at least you can play it off when I'm typing it. You're like, oh, come on. It's live. It's just so much worse. Oh, anyways. Well, on that inappropriate bombshell, maybe we'll talk about more plumber's crack next week, but we'll see what happens. Oh, but yeah. Oh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
And
guys.
we'll both be back in respective times. You can follow us on both of our Twitches, which is handily made by me through the shitty work of OBS. So Netsuko_Kondo and QQ from AU. Yes, my name is Kelvin. Thank you, Netsuko, for doxing me in the very first episode that we ever did.
You didn't mind. Stop bringing it up. You're having a grudge on me. Fuck, man.
No, it actually does feel weird when you call me QQ, so that's fine. But yeah,
It's not too late.
Nah,
You
fuck
know,
it, it's
stop
fine.
calling you Kiki.
It's already on the fucking screen, alright?
Well, yeah, see, that's why I figured that you don't care, so I call you Kelvin.
Yeah, fine. But yeah, we'll all be on our respective channels, and you can see Netsuko will be like a mad woman sewing again. She's almost at the end of her wits. I don't know about the end of the work.
Actually, no, I'm not. I'm in a really good place right now.
Oh, good. So
Yeah.
you've reached the zen.
Yes, I have. It's like, yeah.
So
I don't know, maybe I leveled up.
Maybe it's a point where it just doesn't hurt anymore. It's just like you just don't feel anything anymore.
I think it does actually help that when you're working on a project for so long and it seems like mission impossible, and you're actually finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Like it kind of lifts off so much pressure, and I'm not stressed
are
anymore.
you
So
are you sure that's not an oncoming train?
let's see. Let's see.
Oh, they also have another famous saying, a deer caught in the headlights. But yeah, she'll be doing a lot of sewing. I think she's wrapping up pretty soon, so
Yeah.
she's on the last things, and then she'll have some more interesting and other non-Twitch related things that she's gonna work on, plus some other, like your website and articles and
Oh
stuff like that you want to
yeah,
write.
yeah.
I'll be
The
helping. I'll be helping.
marketing and press release and things
Yeah.
like that in the
Oh,
background.
hello. Hi for
Hey.
thanks for joining us. We're about wrapping up, but we're just wrapping up and letting you guys know what we're doing next time. You can always watch the VOD either here on Twitch or go to our YouTube, which is up there somewhere. But yeah, pretty much our normal content when we're not too busy. When I'm not too busy bullshitting for 90% of the fucking podcast. Is so Natsuko is sewing, as you can see. There's the lovely sewing machines behind her, and she's just on the last stretch of doing her I think her projects, and so she'll finish that soon. And after that, I think you were doing some stuff related to your website for your shop, some blogs and etc. And then also you wanted to do some more non-sewing Twitch related stuff soon.
Yeah, it will be more like, maybe. Well, first I'm going to finish off the bug production because I still need to do a critical review and recap, and I also need to go back to my digital pattern files to make some adjustments, some errors that I noticed when I was actually bug cutting, so little bits and pieces. I actually need to go back to some of the t-shirts that I just got back in because I didn't do a good job on some of the necklines.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll need to unpick that, yay. But once that's all done, I will do more random personal projects, including the Photoshop thing.
Oh shit! I fucking forgot about that.
I'm so looking forward to it. It's gonna be fucking hilarious.
Oh crap!
So hilarious. But yeah, as McKelvin mentioned, I'll be working on like websites and content and marketing in the background, which obviously I won't stream that, but I will have plenty of things
Yeah,
that I'll be streaming. And
I'm sure if you want any updates or that kind of further stuff, I think she'll probably update it on her socials and maybe on Discord or whatever.
yeah, I'll be streaming on Twitch anyway. So.
Yeah, but as for myself, believe it or not, the only reason why we're in the same call together talking about stuff is because we were friends before we started Twitch. Because otherwise, I don't think our paths would ever cross. Because I am a Gunfire Reborn streamer. And you can just see her face go, what the fuck is that? So yes, so I do speed runs of Gunfire at the moment. I've been playing Dota with some of my friends, and it's kind of funny because we do a lot of shenanigans, a lot of meme builds, and a lot of funny shit. It's all in good fun, and I wouldn't say we're pros, but we're pretty decent at it. So it's not us just failing for the memes. And so also yeah, so we're doing a bit of that. I do stream some other variety stuff. We're also doing our D&D stream, which is tomorrow night actually, at I think about 11 o'clock tomorrow night. I don't know, so we'll check up on that for tomorrow if you want to watch. But yeah, this is our third session, and this is our second mission. So come along and join. You'll see more of my antics and more of my innuendos and etc. Very very prevalent in that. But yeah, it's a good time, and eventually we're gonna shoehorn Natsuko in to have her own character, and she'll be officially an e-girl. She'll have done the e-girl thing and played a game on Twitch. Just once, but we're still working on that. But yeah, that's all from us. If you have any recommendations and you have any questions you want to ask us, there's always our Discords. mainly Netsuko. Join hers and let her know, or you can join mine. There's a section there for you to check through. If you want to watch the VOD, there's either the Twitch VOD or the YouTube upload. And hopefully we'll see you next week at the same time. So that's 2 o'clock Eastern, Australian Eastern Standard Time. And we'll think of a subject during the week, or we'll just end up shit talking like we did today, or I'll end up shit talking like I did today. We'll see what happens. Anyways,
Yeah.
but we appreciate you all joining, and if you haven't followed already, if put a follow down for myself and follow Natsuko, and you can join us live next time we go and do our individual projects. All right, catch you all.
Cool.